you mentioned mental health, mental illness. And I remember growing up, it's like, boys don't cry, shove those feelings down, but it just creates anger and it creates a lack of self-confidence. And really, when you can't be you and express your feelings, whether they're good or bad, like it makes for weak homes, because you can't lead a family if you're not expressing your feelings. And if you have all this pent up trauma and just adversity brewing inside you all the time, you can't parent your kids the right way. You can't lead them. And then you know what you do? You pass along that trauma. And then you have all this, generation after generation going through this. You got to be able to stop the cycle.
What is crazy, what you just mentioned is, we're just going to hop on it, is generational trauma. There's two, from what I understand, there's two things. There's the thing that's actually genetics that just get passed on. Like the wiring is goofed up and you pass it on to your kids. That's one thing. And then there's the behavioral stuff that they see and notice, and then they duplicate or not. That's when you get the opportunity to break that cycle and eventually helps them to deal with their own challenges later on and to build resilience. But yeah, like the difficulty in reality is that people don't really talk about it. And then when they talk about it, then it becomes, like a little bit of shame or a little bit of apprehension or whatnot. And if you don't name it, if you don't talk about it, if you don't name it, you can't fix it. If you keep that in, it's like a crazy rat in your head that just eats everything to get out. It messes up your brain, messes up your behavior, messes up your relationships, messes up everything. But if you let the monster out, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's not in the house anymore, and then you can fix it.
So how did you let your monster out?
Oh, man. That's a good question. Well, my monster came in, because that's where it starts, right? Everybody got a beginning. And like I told you yesterday, I found out, which is crazy. I still have a hard time computing the whole thing. But long story short, my parents moved from Poland to France in 1971. I was born in 1974 in December. And it was a known fact that my mom had 7 pregnancies, which include me and my sister. And we knew that the 5 miscarriages were before me. So we knew this. And then I had all kinds of childhood trauma. So my ACE score, adverse childhood experiences, is 8, which is very, very high. And quite damaging to begin with. But there's all kinds of therapies were not working. And I was trying to work on stuff, but very difficult. And I changed therapist. And she's a German therapist from that did 30 years at the VA. And we hopped on a Zoom call. And she said, well, tell me your story. Tell me your story. All right, I'm going to tell you my story. and I go like, here we go again. So I was born this year, that year. And my mom came this way. And she says, wait a minute. Mathematically, it does not work. I'm like, what the heck doesn't work? She says, 5 miscarriages, 71, December, 9 months, 74. Like, it's not possible. Tell me more about your mom. I said, well, my mom was 5 foot tall, 90 pounds wet. And I don't know. She said that she had hormonal therapy to have kids because she was not designed to have children. And she has those 5 miscarriages. And she started like she was stitched up and whatever that meant. And I don't know, things we heard as kids with my sister.
That you always take for certain because your parents tell you.
Yeah. Plus, you don't even...
You don't think about it.
Dude, let me rephrase this. Polish parents that went through Warsaw, bombed and leveled after World War II, like they were living in the rubble. They don't talk about stuff. You plow through life. There was like, no, I love you did not exist. All these words, all this stuff. Like they were catching rats to eat them to survive in a ghetto in Poland. I mean, this is like, this is...
Been through the worst of the worst.
They went through like, I don't know, the worst of the worst, but they went through seriously bad. And actually, even stories about my dad and his sister grabbing boots from soldiers to boil the leather to actually have something to chew on. Wow. Like, that's how it was. Poland in the 40s. And anyway, so they said whatever they said, we didn't register much of it. But that doctor, she goes, hormonal therapy, 5 miscarriages in 2 years before you were born, 9 months in. She says, you probably had twins. I'm like, what the heck? Like sitting there like, what are you talking about, woman? And I'm trying to register. What is she saying? It says, there's mathematically, there's no alternative. It just has to be that. Like, so, or you had a twin, or she lost twins. Either way, there's multiple pregnancies at once to have 5 before you in 2 years and a half. So I'm just sitting there like, whoa. Okay. And then I'm sitting there like thinking, it's interesting. I remember that my mom was bragging about the doctors that she had, because one of them was Polish and she didn't speak a word of French at the time. And when this guy was on TV, being part of the first team that had in vitro in France in 82, she would point at the TV and say, that's my doctor. So I remember the guy. And then things start coming together. And I called my sister. I said, Audrey, listen to what happened. And we start puzzling the stuff together. And eventually, the 2 doctors that were leading, the maternity at the hospital where I was born, were assigned by the French government to figure out abortion before in 1975 the law passed. So they had, under the cloak of the government or whatever, they had to figure out, what is the new protocol for abortion in France, knowing that it's going to most likely pass. Anyway, we come to find out, my sister sent me a screenshot that those 2 doctors wrote a book about twins, The Guide to Raising Twins. The same guys. I'm like, what? This is nuts. I'm like sitting there like, what's
That's
going
interesting.
On? The world is not ready for 2 Jeromes.
Oh, gosh.
But anyway, and so it was kind of like, wow. But also, we looked further, and one of the doctors was pioneering in injecting potassium into kids, like fetuses, for selective abortion. That's what they were doing. I'm like, what? So that's part of the stuff that was happening at the time. And all this is grayed out because it was under the cloak of the government or whatever for getting ready for the abortion. But anyway, so all this turned out to be like, what? Suddenly all the pieces came together. But also it explained why so many therapies were not working on me, because it was not childhood trauma post-birth, child abuse when I was like a kid, because it started more or less 4 years old. But it was actually prenatal. So I was born in a womb full of war zone, So it was like, wow. And when that clicked, it allowed me to kind of start repositioning things and understand better certain behaviors, understand certain things, and kind of take some sort of, it's okay that I don't own that, because there's no memory of it. And that's what the challenge is there.
Yeah, there's a massive challenge, because if you don't remember something, it's hard to work through it.
No kidding.
So let me ask you a question before we go any further, and I mean this with compassion. Yeah. Are you saying that you were a set of twins, and through selective abortion, your twin was killed off by potassium?
Yep. That's our understanding with my sister.
I just have goosebumps. That's
our understanding with my sister.